This is going to be kind of a long video, but in order to show you what I want to show you, it has to be this long. I think it'll make sense by the end of it. Ryza have been quiet on the development of Automobilista 2. To be honest, I've been so distracted with other things I haven't booted it up in a while, and I'm sure some of you are the same way. I've been waiting for that killer update that would bring me back to the game. There's been some amazing tracks and cars released over the last year, updates to the physics which have made it a whole lot more fun to drive. But nothing has held my attention for a long period of time. I've had great fun jumping into AMS2 to experience these new things, but I've been waiting for that something that would make me sink hours and hours into this game. So I'm not about to make a grandiose claim that that's all about to change, only time will tell, but I'm having trouble holding back some of my excitement because when I say this is all I've been doing the past couple of nights, I'm not lying. I've been racing until my arms hurt, and I'm not sleeping nearly as much as I should. And luckily, I've been allowed to share it with you. Ryza were kind enough to reach out and let me tinker with this upcoming release. No strings attached, no obligation to do anything with it. This isn't a paid advertisement. I'm not going to go through the entire release and its features. I really just want to focus on what's got me so excited, and that's the single-player AI updates, or as Ryza have called it, their raceability. Much of this release centers around the idea of trying to perfect what's already in AMS2, trying to get the most out of what's there. And so they've worked on the AI quite a lot with this update, but not just the AI's ability to drive around the track and go fast, but the really important stuff that makes it compelling to hold an offline race. It's the ability for the AI to make passes realistically. It's the ability for them to defend their position, the ability to run a realistic race strategy, to pit for tires in changing conditions, to undercut or overcut to try to get a position. It's the ability for the AI to know when to push or know just when to ride. These are the things I've been waiting for, not just in AMS2, but any sim. It's this stuff that the older games do so well and why I'm still playing sims from 30 years ago. So I want to show it all to you, but to show it properly, like I said, I've got to do a long race, something substantial that allows the field to get spread out, to evolve over the duration of many laps, to make strategies play out, to get lap traffic in the mix. So I've set us up using the new Formula high-tech Gen 2 cars in Barcelona, Circuit de Catalunya, for a 50% Grand Prix race. This set of cars is one of the new ones that's coming out soon, and it simulates the 1993 F1 season. It's such a cool era. This is when electronics were really at their original peak. Active suspension with real-time ride height adjustments, traction control, launch control, ABS, all matters of trickery, and it was eventually mostly all banned in the spirit of driver skill. And so for this race, I'll be driving the approximation of the Williams FW15C for 33 laps against a full field of AI with 2x tire wear and fuel wear to try to simulate for real what this race might have been like. So come along for the ride. I'll talk more about what's so cool in this update and what you might enjoy and why I enjoy it so much. All right, so here we are on the grid. Lights are lit. Green right away. We're underway. Used the launch control to get off the line. Lost a little bit of time to the cars in front. We'll funnel down to the first corner. And try not to outbrake myself as we come down here. Try to slot in with everybody else. There we go, through the first corner. Oh, some smoke in front, but nobody spun out. Maybe a bit of contact from a car up there. So we'll sneak up the inside and wind our way, dive up the inside of the salver in front, up the inside. It's gonna outbrake me a little bit. So we'll run it down the hill here into another tight corner to the left. This is Barcelona, Catalunya, that you all know and love. Very similar to the modern Formula 1 circuit as I make the pass, but coming up here up to Kamsa, or the next corner up the hill, it does change quite a bit. This is a 1991 version of the circuit, and we'll fly through Kamsa, not quite as severe as it is these days, and up to the Nissan chicane. But that'll set us up then for the end of the lap, which is a bit more flowing than it is now. I think they squared off some of these corners. But all right, making a couple passes here back on the opening lap. So we'll come through a long right-hander, car in front. A little bit slow on the apex. I think it's a Ligier actually. Martin Trundle, it looks like. I guess I know who that is. We'll cut through the final corner though. Complete lap number 1. All right, not such a bad opening lap. I'm up to P8. I started in 10th. And And I've got the AI set very, very strong, so it's going to be difficult to make a lot out of this, but I'm excited to see where I can get up to. Looks like we got a couple Benettons in front of the Ligier here. So these cars, like I said in the introduction, approximate the 1993 Formula One season, and they are generic models except for the McLaren, which hopefully we'll see at some point, but I have a feeling they're way up front. They are genericized models, but they represent the different engine capacities that race during the season and very much take after the real cars, especially in physics. And the one we're driving is most similar to the Williams FW15C, I believe. And one of the most advanced Formula One cars of all time, really, in 1993. It was the pinnacle of that electronics coming of age of Formula One, with all of the different tricks that you could possibly think of being developed and used in these cars for traction control and ABS and launch control. And the most interesting of all, I think, the active suspension. So we'll come out of the front straight away. I'm not an engineer, but active suspension allows the actual suspension, the replacement of springs and traditional dampers and things, to hydraulic cylinders that allow a computer to actually control the ride height of the car on all four tires and suspension independently. So basically the computer's just trying to keep the car as level as possible at all times, no matter the camber and the road, how everything moves around the car, all the bumps and everything. It tries to keep the chassis of the car as flat as possible, and that allows the car to make maximum downforce everywhere. And to my knowledge, this is the first time this has been simulated in a sim, especially from like a first party content type of thing. And it's very cool. You can see the front axles, the front tires move kind of independently of each other and try to massage the ground, I guess, as we go around and keep the car in optimal position. So we'll come through the Nissan chicane there. I'm barely holding on to this 8th place on the 3rd lap. We're really gonna have to pay attention to tire wear during this, and I can tell I'm beating my tires up quite dramatically here through these first laps. We got pretty much full fuel in the car. We're not gonna need to hit for fuel at all, but we will need tires at some point. So we'll swing through the final couple of corners. Perhaps the coolest thing that you can do with active suspension is some kind of DRS. I'll click a button on the front stretch, and you saw the car pop off the ground. It's a drag reduction mode for the car that reduces downforce for a straight line. I got to click it off again before we get in the corner. You absolutely have to click it off. You don't want to try to go through a corner without downforce like that. But it makes this car travel in a straight line a lot quicker. And there's something they developed in 1992, 1993 and ran on these cars. It's so cool. Another thing you'll notice is I'm not actually doing upshifts. I've got it in auto shift mode for upshifts, but I'm doing my downshifts manually, at least for now. But there's a few different modes for it. You can do full auto if you want. You can do just upshifts, just downshifts, or all manual. And I imagine you'd use that at different points in the race or the weekend. Maybe on a qualifying lap, you're definitely going to want full control over anything. But at the end of a Grand Prix, when you're tired and you're just nursing the car home, probably want it on full automatic. You don't need to worry about shifting the gears or anything. And all of that's modeled. All that's modeled in this. It's very cool. It makes driving these cars pretty complicated, and I'm certainly not super practiced at this point. I've only done about 6 races now. I've done quite a lot of racing, like I said. We'll come through the final couple of corners, though. I'm just able to hold on to these 2 in front, but I can feel my tires are really starting to wear out. We're gonna have to figure out when to pit. Now, ideally, we'd get to lap 11 and try to make this a 2-stop, and I'm almost thinking it's gonna be a 3-stop at this point, with just how much they're wearing. But the wear will get better as we burn off some fuel. Slide it through the first couple of corners. I don't think I clicked the DRS on that time. Gotta remember to do it. It's one of the hardest parts about it. I'm not used to driving cars that actually have a lot of buttons and things, so it's quite foreign to me, but it's so cool. And the fact that you can see the car make all those motions and things, it's not just something that the physics does and you don't really get to see it. It's all modeled here. And it definitely convinces me You absolutely feel it if you try to go into a corner with the low downforce mode active, that you don't have enough downforce to make it through the corners nearly as fast. Sliding the rear end there. I don't know how many more laps I'm going to make it. Might try to undercut the cars in front. I'm really close to them, and all I would need is a little bit, maybe just a couple seconds, and I would be able to get around them through the pit sequence. Everybody stays out. I'm going to try to stay out another lap at least. It's so early. Remember, I'm on 2 times fuel burn and tire wear and everything, so it's all accelerated, but 2 times race distance or half race distance, it all equals out to what it was actually like in 1993. I did watch this race back, or some highlights from it, just to remember the period and things. And Prost won this race. Damon Hill hounded him most of the race, was actually leading quite a lot, but he had a mechanical failure. The Williams was the class of the field in 1992 and 1993. They really were so dominant. And Prost actually came back for 1993 after Mansell went to IndyCar to take the Williams seat. Kind of crazy to think that Mansell could have had another year at Williams, probably. All right, the car is so slidey. Do I pit this lap? If I pit now, I'm going to have to extend my next stints, but like I said, I'll have less fuel. Might be easier to nurse the tires for longer. I feel like I'm losing a lot of time to the cars in front. All right, I'm going to try it. See if we can do the undercut. So signal to my crew that we're going to come in. I just need to make it around without losing too much more time. So far, so good. Everything is spread out nice. If you've raced AMS2 before, this is so much different than it's ever been. The cars spread out nicely. Everybody's kind of running their own race. You have a huge speed disparity between the slow and the fast cars, which is very accurate. Bulls will come into the pits, slide it around a little bit. We got this nice chicane to negotiate. There we come into the pits then, find our stall. Try not to hit any of our guys, get it down to first gear, on the brakes. We're just going to change tires. It'll be nice and quick. All right, there we go. Come on, guys, get them on. Try and get it out of the pit lane. Pretty much no speed limit. There wouldn't have been a speed limit in this time, but we do have a 200 km/h speed limit, but we'll get it back out on the track behind 2 much slower cars. This will be interesting. 21st position now from 8th. All right, we've got to be really nice to these tires then. So these are the ones I want to get quite far into the race. We'll have to see. Maybe I can stretch it and get them far enough that I only have to do one more stop. We'll see what everybody else does as well. Second one up in front of me. Shauna Lacey's Ferrari, I can tell by the name. I can't wait till the skin makers and the AI creators get their hands on this, because it's not going to take long to get some accurate names and things like that. That'll just add that little bit more. But even as it is, you can still tell kind of who the cars are and everything, and it's so much fun. As we'll come down here, get a bit of a run on the car in front. Oh, he's going to looking to make a pass as well. I spooked him, spooked myself there. Luckily able to survive. Close call. I will come through around the top of the hill. See if people start pitting. I hope some folks, well, actually, I hope I get a couple laps before everybody pits, but I don't want to be stuck up behind some other cars. We'll get onto the front stretch, activate our pseudo DRS. There we go, pulling him in nicely. Slide up the inside, wave goodbye to the Ferrari. He's trying very hard with that V12. Just able to make the pass here through the first couple of corners. Ferrari struggled so much in this time period. It was not the Ferrari of just a couple years later with Michael Schumacher going over, and really that whole organization revolutionizing itself for the late 90s. But in the early 90s, it was kind of a dark period for them. But that car actually does have a V12 in it, even though it's not actually the Ferrari. The different cars have different engines, and the V10 that I'm driving, the Renault V10, is quite good. It's probably the best of the lot. The V12 is the second fastest in a straight line, and the V8, which would be like the McLaren and the Benetton and things, they're pretty slow in a straight line, and it's actually really hard to make passes in those cars because you just cannot get the run that you can with this car. I had a great battle at Interlagos while I was driving the Benetton, and I was swapping positions with some of the other cars because they had passed me on the straight because they have so much more power, but then in the corners I was doing really well, so I was able to pass them back, and we went back and forth for half a dozen laps. It was a lot of fun as we'll come across the line to start lap 9, and I'm still not seeing anybody in the pits. This might work out pretty well for me, but can I hold on to the tires then long enough to make this make sense? As the cars in front go to pass each other, ooh, a bit of contact. Easy does it. But not a big crash. That was very believable contact. The AI still do make mistakes, but now that they actually drive realistically, the mistakes themselves are very cool. I love to see a car get a little loose in a corner, some slight contact, and have it not be these massive AI issues that we've seen in the past. Might have been able to go for that move. All right, a little bit of a slipstream here. Come up the inside. This is a tough corner to pass on, almost making contact myself. Come on. Squeeze right to the grass there. Just not able to find a way around these guys. I'm going to lose a lot of time because of the back markers. It's the part of the strategy I didn't think about. Pitting early, get new tires, maybe try to leapfrog. But I have to get around the lap traffic as well, or the slower cars. I guess I'm on the same lap as them right now. All right, one goes in the pits. First car I'm seeing in the pits. Actually, a couple cars in the pits, up to 17th now. Got a good run here down the front stretch as one of the Benettons comes out of the pits. We'll get around him as well into the braking zone. Oh, get the DRS off. I almost missed it there. So I think that's Patrese car behind me. So I think this has worked out despite the traffic. I've been able to get around one of the cars I was challenging. We'll see if more cars pit this lap. We can figure out where I'm at. There might be a McLaren ahead as well. Oh, a bit of snap oversteer there, barely holding on to the car. Still lunge up the inside of the lap traffic. Johnny Sherbert there. Sliding a bit around the outside of the corner. I think I've got Hakkinen in front, or I guess it would have been Michael Andretti's car for this race. It's one of the other cars pits. We'll get onto the front stretch, back with the DRS on, picking up a lot of positions now. 10th, back up to 10th. A couple more cars coming out of the pits as well. That Jordan just gets out in front of us, but I'm back up to 8th after all that cycle, and it's worked out. It's nice when you can bank on there maybe not being a safety car. Safety cars were very rare in this time period, and so the strategies all play out naturally, but now I've got to stretch my tires quite a lot further. All these guys will be on much pressure rubber than me. We'll have to see how it works out. We're only on lap 11 now, so we're just 1/3 of the way through the Grand Prix. Oh, there's a McLaren in front. Dive up the inside. Gonna outbrake myself a little bit there. That was an opportunistic move. He's gonna over under me. Come back up the inside. All right, just hold on to it. I gotta be careful with my tires more than anything. Don't need to make contact and ruin the race here early on. I did have one race at Spa where I damaged the front wing on the opening lap and had to pit. And from there, it was all just about trying to get as many positions as I could back. And it was so much fun working my way up through the field. But I would be okay with not doing that here today, especially this deep into the race. It would be more or less race over at this point. All right, active suspension on, raising the car up. Oh, and just so much more power than the V8. The V8 Ford that the McLaren had in 1993, easily able to get around him, get it down to second gear for turn 1, and dispatch Andretti or Hakkinen and focus forward. So up to P7 now, just one more position to get the points. I'm really loving this version of Barcelona from 1991. Not so different than the track is these days. Besides these few corners here, it's largely the same. But having the period advertisements and all the grass and dirt runoff and things, it just really completes the experience. And it is the thing I think this sim has up over everything else that's out there. Maybe Assetto Corsa. Obviously, you've got access to so much there and can do a lot of your own type of updates and things if that's what you're into. But it does not have the racing experience that this now has. And this is where I think this sim shines and what I really hope they focus on. They clearly have a passion for this classic Formula One stuff. And I think it does it incredibly well. And now that we can actually race and have full offline races, and it's believable, it's just, it's such a new breath of fresh air, I guess you'd call it, or a new day for Automobilista 2 in my eyes. I'm closing up on these two in front. I think this is both for position, so we're fighting for 5th now. But I can definitely tell my tires are starting to get worn out. And so how far can I stretch it? Really, I gotta go as far as I can go. I only made it 7-8 laps on the first set of tires. So we're actually coming up on double that now. So the tires are definitely lasting longer because the fuel's burning off, but how much further can I go? But now I'm catching these two. Maybe the car in front's quite slow. This Jordan in front of me is going to try to find his way around. Come down here to the end of the straight. Whoa, I'm going to get boxed in there. It's a really tough place to pass, especially as the marbles build up and things. Oh, as the Jordan almost cuts my wing off on the front. All right, get it on the front stretch. See if I can out-drag these two. The Jordan, I think, has got the same engine, or a V10 at least, so it's got a lot of power, but we've got that active suspension. We'll come up the inside. They outbrake me. I was way too early on the brakes there. It's tough to pass two cars in one go. It's close quarters racing, but you can tell it's just so much different. Let's see if I can make a move here up the inside. Oh, wheel to wheel. Don't want to make too much contact, or any really. Almost making contact there too. Thought about going for the move. We're all riding up behind one car as I missed the apex there. DJ's all over my gearbox, right out to the curbing. The tires are starting to get really slidey. Just use all the traction control. You can hear it. It sounds like gravel. Oh, making slight contact with the car in front. Don't want to do something like that. It's very easy to damage your wings. I do think I've got it on high damage, not full, so it could be much easier to damage. All right, back on the front stretch. A little bit better of an exit this time. He's gonna look to the right. Maybe I can slide up behind the slower car in front. Down to first gear. See if I can hang it around the outside. It's gonna turn into the inside. It's the beauty of turns 1 and 2 at Barcelona. There we go. That was a decent move. Worked out for me. So we'll head up the hill now. And hopefully can break away from the car behind and just get around this one car in front. This will be for 5th position. But now officially up into the points. Dive up the inside, get down to first gear, and just park it on the apex. There we go. All right. String of cars behind, but we'll try to leave them as they get bottled up with each other and focus forward. I got quite the gap, 8 seconds to the car in front. But quite a lot of race to go. We're only nearly halfway. And I'm gonna need tires soon. Hopefully I can stretch it another few laps at least. Get close to lap 20. Oh, the car's so slidey there though. Finally some clean air. We'll see what this car can really do, but the tires are so worn at this point. It's so tricky. But I mentioned at the start, you kind of need to do a long race to see this stuff, and I think it's one of the reasons why it's not something that everybody out there is looking for, because I know folks don't have enough time to sit down and do, 2 hours of racing to do a full Grand Prix or something like that. I totally get it. But this even works. This works for everybody, because even if you do a half-distance race or a quarter-distance race, you're going to benefit from all the same things. Sure, you won't get the same lap traffic, and you won't really get the same attrition and things like that in a believable way, but you're still going to benefit from AI racing, wheel-to-wheel better, still making smart decisions with strategy. And it just overall makes the sim so much more enjoyable, because you can actually use all this stuff. It would be awesome to do an online race where you have a full grid of these cars, and there's ways to do that out there, but you're not going to do that every night of the week. It's going to be something that happens once a month, once every other week or something if you're lucky. I could do this every single night. I can do this 3 times in one evening, which I totally haven't done recently. It's been so much fun. I've been racing my arms off doing this, and I plan to continue doing the same, because it really is one of the best things I've experienced recently in sim racing as a whole. I'm closing up on the car in front quite a lot. 4 or 5 seconds now. I can see him up the road. So things are looking very good, but we do have some lap traffic coming. I can see in the relative. The thing that makes this extra exciting too is what's on the horizon for AMS2. They announced last year that they have a partnership with Le Mans. They're going to be developing modern Le Mans circuit, but also historic versions, 90s and 70s, along with more cars. And all of that is well and good, and I would absolutely have tried it. But the fact now that we can potentially do endurance races and have believable AI and just have our own fun offline mini Le Mans, 2-hour distance, 1-hour distance, whatever you want to do, it brings me back to GTR2 and Sports Car GT and all the fun games of the past, and potentially even better, because this is doing a lot of stuff that those old games could never do. And then having the good AI on top of it, it's everything I've been looking for. I can't say that enough. But that's going to be a lot of fun to race around Le Mans in this game, and I hope we get a great assortment of cars to do it with. So come by the pit, starting lap 18 now, getting dangerously far on the tire wear on the left sides especially. This track just punishes those left side tires. Catching a car in front. I'm not sure who it's supposed to be. It's out of second gear. I'll have to start thinking about pitting. It's a long way to go, 15 laps to the finish. It'd be a long way to go on one set of tires, even with lower fuel. Still have about 100 liters in the car. Might have overfilled it. But still closing on the car in front. As long as I'm making progress, I might as well stay out. We'll see if the traffic gets bad at some point. I can jump in the pits or something like that. Get it through the chicane there. Just really trying to be careful. As the tires wear out, it's a lot easier to lock up the brakes, even with the ABS and things like that. It's not, you do have these driving aids, I guess you'd call them, that are built into the car, but they're not perfect. They're not like video game driving aids. They're actually simulating the real driving aids that are flawed. They can't correct all types of brake lock. They can't correct all of the throttle applications that you may make. So you still have to drive the car. And knowing that they did the same thing in real life, it's really interesting to then drive this and then go compare, watch the real Grand Prix, and just see what they were dealing with. And you can draw a lot of similarities. It might not be exactly the same thing, but it at least gives you an impression of what it felt like. And to me, that's what I'm always looking for, is what did it actually feel like to drive in these races, even if a little bit. If I can just experience that and understand a little bit better, it makes the enjoyment of the sport just more in general. All right, I've closed up on this car, but my tires are absolutely shot now, and we're catching some traffic, so I think I'm gonna actually pit this lap. I'll radio the crew, tell them I'm pitting in. It's gonna be a stretch to get to the end from here, but I think this is the time to do it. Curious to see if he pits as well, or when he pits. If he doesn't pit this lap, I have a feeling I could jump him through the pit stop cycle, depending on where I come out. Oh, I was really close up there in braking. All right, we'll come around. Oh, sliding the rear end, almost looping it. Don't do that. All right, take it nice and easy on the pit entry. I found it to be quite slick. There's not a lot of rubber. There's a lot of rubber building up on the track, but not a lot of rubber in this pit lane here, so you gotta be extra careful. It'll come down into the chicane, come for our second pit stop, a car in front of me as well. All right, we'll get out of the pits. All right, decent pit stop that, and I just need to maximize this out lap. Hopefully I don't get stuck behind more traffic as we get out of the pit lane. One car just a little bit up the road, but he's very slow. I think it's Michele Alboredo's car. Did he race Lola? I think he might have raced for Lola in 1993. There were a lot of teams in 1993, 26 cars, and that's what we've got on the grid. The early 90s were a fantastic time in Formula One. It's one I'm very nostalgic for. It's what makes this just feel even that little bit extra special, is just having something from the perfect time in my eyes. Believe me, I love the older stuff too, and I would die for this kind of experience with that. So really fast on the Lola in front. We'll dive up the inside, just nice and easy. I gotta really take care of these tires to get them to the end. I would love a 60s experience of this quality. It could really give GPL a run for its money. I'll probably get hate saying that, but I'm happy with what we've got here, because this is another era that I'm particularly passionate about. So you can tell I'm very up on this. It's just been so much fun the past couple nights, and it's not perfect though, and I don't want to give the illusion that nothing is wrong with this. I have had some difficulties with the wet weather, and it's probably a skill issue in myself and actually being able to drive as well, but it's been so hard to keep up with the AI in certain conditions, or the transitions. They're not perfect, and on all tracks they're not perfect either. There's some corners that I wish they took faster. Sometimes you can kind of figure out where you're able to get some speed on them, but it is so much far and beyond some of the other games out there, and especially where AMS2 was, just even as of the last version, that it's like a totally different game. And I really just want to do like full seasons and stuff in this now. Try to actually do, we've got so many years of Formula One in this, as I passed one car there quite easily. We've got such a string of cars in front. I think this is that whole string I was battling with earlier. They're not really making moves on each other, and I really just hope they all pit in the next couple of laps. But I think you could make a really nice career out of that late 80s through the early 90s time period, with all the tracks and the cars that this sim has. And I'm really thinking about doing stuff like that, even just for myself, if not for videos and things, because I'm having such a good time with it. So I'll try to come up the outside of this Sauber. These cars, I can tell they're all on old tires, which is why they're so slow right now. They're all staying out though. They're gonna have quite the advantage. Oh, a bit of smoke there. What was that from? Get back onto the front stretch. I did not get a good exit there. I hesitated on the throttle. This is really going to hurt if I can't get past some of these cars quickly. Get Get it down to first gear. We're playing little bumper cars in front, I think. But it's not like it was before. They're not all up on each other's gearboxes and things. I saw the McLaren go around the outside of a car there, right up on the Sauber now, make the move, coming up the hill here. That's Rosberg and Hamilton's corners. We'll come up the inside of a really slow car there. Koolhaas's car. I think that car had an engine failure during this actual race. Trying to make another pass here on the inside. Oh, not going to be able to do it. Stuck in there on the outside. I've got him on high aggression setting, which I haven't really played around with the aggression settings and things like that since all of these changes, but I've got on high aggression, and I've got them on 108% for this race. So there's still a bit of headroom, and trust me, they are so fast at like 110, 112% that I cannot keep up and finish anywhere but the bottom 20 or something like that. So I think they'll be plenty fast for almost anybody, unless you're an alien in your own right. I'll come through the final corner here. Got a nice exit this time. Get the DRS on. Close up behind the Sauber. Spring out of line. He's going to have a slipstream though, and even though I've got this DRS, I'm barely pulling in front of him. Well, we'll pass both cars coming down into turn one. There we go. Slide in front of that Jordan. Just working my way back up the pack. We still have 10 laps to go though. 11 laps to go on this set of tires. Driven the McLaren a bit. I've driven all the cars now in this set. Done different races in all of them, and I quite like this one. Of course, it is, I think, the most performant of the bunch. Easiest to drive, does everything you'd want it to do. But it's not easy to drive. It's just the easiest of the set. The McLaren is quite nice though, but it is down on power, so you get on the straight and it feels like you can't really pass. But that's accurate to how it actually was. Just cool to see. And the Benetton's very much the same. It's got the same engine, the V8. We'll also try to come around the outside of the McLaren. He's going to squeeze me out right to the curb there. All right, swing past the pits again. I'm just hoping they're going to pit, but not yet. All right, we'll get that active arrow on. Should have no trouble getting past the McLaren here, even though he's got a slipstream. And maybe active arrow himself, I'm not sure. The Williams was just so much more advanced because they really debuted all this stuff in 1992 and turned the Grand Prix world on its head. They were so much more competitive that season than everybody else. And they carried that experience into 93. So although all the teams started catching up, we'll make a dive there for 7th, almost driving back into the points. Even though the rest of the team started to get the same tricks, traction control and active suspension and things, they had one less season of it, of experience with it and everything than all the rest of than Williams did. So Williams was really just the best team of the time, and it took that 1994 rule change that really outlawed a lot of this electronics to reset things to an extent. And of course, that proved to be kind of a tragic change of events. Led to quite a lot of the issues that happened in 1994. The cars were just so difficult to drive suddenly. They had been designed for these tricks, and they no longer had them. So we're stuck up behind these two. Try to maximize the exit here out of the last corner. It's one of the Jordans. These two have been stuck behind before. This wasn't the best exit, but I still have one trick up my sleeve. So slide down the inside. This is going to get me back up into the top 5, I think. Oh, I'm not able to make the double pass there. All right, late apex. Just using that extra grip that I have. I just don't want to overdo it with the tires as I go quite late into the left-hander. Outbrake myself a little bit, carry the speed around, and get the position. So back up to 5th, chasing 4th again. but I think he's going to have to stop again, and I'll just have to see if my tires can make it to the end. That's really what I've gambled. So I've been talking about the AI the whole race and how amazing they are in drive. I will say around the physics and things, it doesn't feel dramatically different to me than it felt in the 1.5 version, although they say they've done some work and certainly things don't feel worse by any regard, and maybe better. Tough for me to tell. But if you liked how 1.5 drove and all the changes they made then to the tire carcass and things, this is very much of the same. I had one friend describe it as hero physics. Driving an Automobilista 2, I said it a long time ago, it feels kind of like driving in a Hollywood movie or a Hollywood version, a film version of what a race is like. And you either like it for that or you don't like it for that. It definitely encourages bravery and driving hard. The harder you drive, it seems, the faster you will go. And some folks really like that. Some people think it's more realistic. Some people don't. But all of the weirdness, if you haven't tried Automobilista 2 in a couple years, or you never tried it before because you heard it felt like Project Cars 2, there is not a trace of anything Project Cars 2 related in this, in my opinion. It's very much a completely different feeling game at this point. And I quite like it. I still do all the same things driving-wise that I would do in any other sim. To correct oversteer, to correct understeer, to do the right lines into corners. You still do all the same controls. It maybe, to me, just feels like it's slightly easier sometimes to get away with stuff. And I find it incredibly fun and not frustrating in the least. And it's the perfect mix of realism and you know, realistic physics in my mind to enjoy something like this. A very, very similar car to these, or I think maybe the 92 or 93 McLaren exists in R Factor 2, which I have driven a little bit, and it's kind of similar feeling. I've always really enjoyed R Factor 2's physics, and I do think Automobilista 2 and its more modern iterations is not that drastically different than that. I think a lot of folks would have fun with it, especially on the road circuits. I think this type of racing, older Formula cars, doing Grand Prix is really what it does best. And I strongly recommend it. If you haven't tried it in a while, you might find that you really enjoy it now. And there's a lot to do here. A lot to do with all these updates and a lot on the horizon. Alright, I saw the car in front. He's stuck up behind one of the other cars. He's just getting around him now. I don't think he was stuck up there for too long. They do a decent job at getting around lap traffic. They don't just ride their gearbox for lap after lap. But I'm catching 4th place, and that's my goal now. I don't know if he's not going to pit or what's going to happen here towards the end of the race, if he's going to run out of tire with just a few laps to go. But sitting in 5th now, looking for 4th place points after a drive down to 9th, 10th on the grid. It's been a journey so far this Grand Prix. So come up behind one of the slower cars again. Oh, just get him on the exit there. So slow on the apex. I love the difference in speed from the slow and the fast cars. That's something that is quintessential early 90s, late 80s Formula One, is having some cars that are just dramatically off the pace. You can imagine these crazy electronics. Some of the small teams simply couldn't ever imagine to afford something like that or put anything close to it in their cars. So they were just massively slower than the fastest cars, and much more unreliable and everything as well. So it's cool to have that kind of speed disparity. All right, we're coming up behind the car. I don't know if he's going to jump in the pits or not, but if not, might be able to get around him on the front stretch. Just try to get a nice exit here through the final corner. Oh, perfect. Perfect that time on the DRS. And making the pass up for 3rd or 4th place. Don't get ahead of myself. first gear, just make sure I make the corner nice and smooth. Try to put a little gap on the car behind me. Looks like we've got some traffic up the road, but a bit of clear air between here and there. And not too many laps to go. The tires are wearing quite nicely. Still got to watch those left sides, but the fuel burn has really helped the tire wear, as you can see. One of the great features in AMS2, of course, is the weather system and being able to punch in a date and run historical weather. They have that for most, if not all, of their tracks. You can just put in a date in the last 40, 50 years or so, and it should spit out, you know, roughly accurate conditions for that day. And so I know AMS or Ryza themselves have put out a video showcasing all these changes, the same things I'm showcasing here at Interlagos, using the actual 1993 date and the weather and everything. And that race had a thunderstorm that came through, and it's cool that you can do stuff like that. You can set dates and have it replicate, you know, roughly what the real conditions were. This race itself was just sunny and warm like this. But it really adds a lot to that immersion if you want to really try to relive the Grand Prix or try to mimic the career of your favorite driver through this time period. You can get very, very close with what this sim offers now. So I'm getting closer to some lap traffic in front, but I'm not sure how far up the road third place is, or if it's even within reach. The only thing that could get me now, I think, is if they have to pit for new tires with just a few laps to go. It's getting down towards the end of the race. My car is starting to slide quite a lot, so I have to be extra careful just to try to get it to the end. Coming up on a lapped Ferrari, I think. Gerhard Berger's car, I believe. Not going to be close enough to get him on the front stretch here, I don't think. Maybe have a chance just down into turn one. I think he's going to be just too far ahead of me. Better safe than sorry to not go for that lunge. Oh, he's so slow, though. Try to come around the outside, but there's a lot of marbles and things. You're running to the outside of the track. Come on, Gerhard. This is when I wish I had the hand raise motion. Certainly warrants it there. Get around the inside of him, though. There he goes. Finally moves out of the way. I mentioned it briefly when we were talking about jumping into the pit lane, but the tracks in AMS2 also do rubber up. And you'll find they're much faster towards the end of the race. That's another reason why the tires might be wearing a lot less than they were at the beginning of the race. The track was fairly green at the start of the race, and you can kind of see the rubber line, especially in the corners. But it really helps both grip as well as the tire wear. The trick is, if it rains, it also is the most slippery part of the course. If the track has a lot of rubber on it when it rains, the corners become quite treacherous. All right. Past the pit lane here. I keep hoping I'll see a car in the pits, but I don't think I'm going to be lucky enough. The AI do know what they're doing. Just so encouraging to see. But it's neat to have stuff like that modeled as well. If you want to simulate a full weekend, if it rains during one of the sessions, that's going to wash away some of the rubber. And so if you don't have another session before the race, you're going to start the race on a green track. Versus if you have 3 practices all in the dry and then go into the Grand Prix and it hasn't rained, you're going to have a ton of rubber on the track. It's going to be a very fast track and be a completely different race, really. So you could do the same race twice, and depending on the conditions, if they change, you're going to have a very different experience and strategy options and how fast you can go and when you should pit. It's all those little things that really add up and make every Grand Prix unique. Never mind some randomized AI performances will really catch the Lola there. easily make a pass up the inside. You can see I'm actually turning the best laps that I've turned in the entire race right now, and I'm almost not even pushing as hard, but it's just less fuel, more rubbered up track. It makes a lot of speed here towards the end of the race. I do see a car in the pits, but it looks like third place is like 30 seconds up the road, and we're on the final lap now, so I don't think I'm going to be able to catch him, but we can just cruise home. I think a fourth place finish is quite nice after starting 10th on the grid. We have to do it before I can claim victory at all. So I hope I'm not overselling this at all. In fact, I'm not selling anything. It's tough for me to explain how much this is purely my own doing and wanting to do this video, and I've just been fortunate enough through all of this stuff and all of you watching really that they allow me to try these things out before they're released, give my feedback. I think that's really what they were looking for, is since I do a lot of this, they just wanted to know what I thought of it, and I've been lucky enough that I can actually share it with everybody before it's out, but it is the real deal. I have tried, like I said, this is my 7th race I think I've done with this across different circuits, and all of them have played out naturally like this. Nothing crazy weird has happened. I've had a fun time trying to battle the AI with strategy and do the best I can and driving these awesome cars on these awesome courses. As we'll come across the line, finishing 4th, not too bad, but having a heck of a good time doing it. This is what I've been waiting for in sim racing for years at this point. It's just some sim to do offline racing in a competent way. iRacing does a good job with it, but that's all modern stuff. You know, modern tracks at least maybe have some historic cars, which are great. But I think this is a slightly different thing than that, and it really does a good job at it. And so I really applaud Ryza and all of the hard work they've done. I think it's hard to go nearly 6 months without an update to a game, and a lot of us had stopped playing it for a little while and just moved on to other things. But I think AMS2 is back in a big way, and if you like offline racing, you absolutely have to try this. I'm eager to try it with some of the other cars. I can't wait for other folks to try it and kind of share the best tips and tweaks and things, the settings that work the best for different races. But it's clear a lot has changed under the hood in AMS2, and it's going to be really exciting from here on out. So thank you for those that stuck with me. I know this is a lot longer of a video, but I really think something like this warrants a good distance race, and I can't wait to do some full races and things. So until then, thank you for watching. This is GP Laps, and I'll see you all again next time.